Sheila, would you do the roll, please?
Commissioner Chair Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Carey,
Here.
Commissioner Molina,
Here.
Commissioner Batterson,
Here.
and Commissioner Velasco is absent.
Thank you. So we'll go to the first agenda item, which is the last meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Rebecca. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Batterson. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? Unanimous. Okay, we'll move on to Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee and members of the commission. I'm going to ask Ryan to go ahead and give his budget update.
Thank you. So we're about 25% through the year, quarter through the year. We're currently 2.6 under budget, so we're doing well with our spending. Our revenue remains steady and constant now that we're back with facilities open for rental, parks, things of that nature. So we're on the upswing. Looks like we're recovering from our COVID deficiencies. Currently, we don't have anybody on the COVID watch list, which is a good sign. So I'm hoping that we're steering in the right direction there with vaccinations and things of that nature. So overall, COVID budget-wise, we're doing well. The 2-year process should be starting within the next 2 weeks. We should be getting information on that from the city manager's office so we could move forward with our next 2-year schedule and get the budget rolling with CMAPs and SBRs and things of that nature. So we continue to do well budget-wise also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Any questions for Ryan? Let's not make it easy on him since it's his last meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Lee, for adjusting the schedule for me.
So it gives me great pleasure to read the resolution to commend Mr. Ryan Heath for his 23 years of service to the city of Santa Maria. Resolution number 2021-04. Whereas Ryan Heath has announced his departure from the Recreation and Parks Department on October 15th, 2021, after dedicating 23 years of service to the residents of the city of Santa Maria. And whereas Ryan Heath began his career on January 29th, 1998 as a recreation leader since that time, Ryan has promoted his way to management analyst, a position he has held since February 29th, 2020. And whereas Ryan Heath has always been willing to take on new assignments and finding ways to make those assignments efficient and effective. Most recently, Ryan did an outstanding job coordinating and overseeing the department's COVID-19 tracking during the pandemic. And whereas Ryan Heath can be proud of the service he provided to the residents and visitors of the city of Santa Maria over the years, his service will impact future generations for many more years. Now, therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Recreation and Parks Commission of the city of Santa Maria. Ryan Heath is recognized for his 23 years of dedicated service to the city of Santa Maria, the Recreation and Parks Department, and the community. The Recreation and Parks Commission and the department wish Ryan the best of luck in his new role on North County Parks Operations Manager for Santa Barbara County. Passed and adopted at a regular meeting of the City of Santa Maria Recreation and Parks Commission held this 12th day of October 2021. Thank you, Ryan. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We will need a motion from the commissioners, please.
I'll move to accept resolution number 2021-04.
I have a motion by Commissioner Batterson,
And I second.
second by Commissioner Molina. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Unanimous.
Unanimous.
While Ryan's shaking hands, I just want to take a second to thank Ryan, his family that are here today, and the staff that came out to recognize him on his almost last day. He's headed out on vacation for a few days, so we'll certainly miss Ryan. I think he's done a great job for us over the 23 years, holding every position from rec leader to analyst. An example again of the longevity that we have in the department, and the ability for our staff to be competitive when they go out and look for new positions or want to advance within the organization. Ryan has been willing to do the things that sometimes are difficult to do. Standing in my mind are things like working with the swim groups when it came to running the pool, with the other sports organizations, coming up with the field allocation plan, which you might remember, those of you that were on the commission, that took months of review and rewrites and things, and coming up with a document that we've actually sent around to agencies in California that have asked for our field documentation and how fields are allocated. So that went all the way to the council for approval. So again, it was a good example of Ryan's tenacity in getting some of the work done that we have to do. Always a quiet guy. You never really see Ryan out looking for the accolades. Certainly today's a day for him to have that from us. So I want to thank him very much for his efforts, and I know that he'll do a great job at the county. And since he's just going to be down the road, I told him my expectation is that we'll have many conversations over his time at Waller Park. So I did take a minute to get Ryan a little gift, so I want to give that to him. So thank you very much. Enjoy. It says Giants on the outside of the box, so that's just a coincidence. Well, it depends on how you look at that, so. You're welcome.
It does have the Dodger blue bow on it.
Nice leather. Thank you. There's no money in it, but.
Dodger blue means consolation.
Ryan, any comments you want to make? This is the time.
Well,
I'd just like to say thank you. Over the years, it's been a privilege working with you, with the youth, and going out to the meetings, meeting Ryan, a couple of the fellows that you sent out there to the community, out in the forefront. Ryan has always dealt with the community really well. We appreciate all your hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure working for the city of Santa Maria. I consider myself very fortunate that I was able to get my education and come back and work in the community where I grew up, born and raised, and I have really enjoyed working with the numerous staff over the years. We have Eddie, one of our retired staff, and all my fellow co-workers back there, my friends, family. I've been fortunate to be able to give back to the community. I think that's really important. And I continue to do the same thing. Well, I plan on continuing to do the same thing when I move to the county. I won't be that far away, like Alex said. I'll be just down the street, and I'll definitely stay in touch with you, but I look forward to benefiting our community with my work through the county as well. So again, I thank you guys. Thank you for all your support over the years. I want to thank Alex for all his tutelage over the years. Jim Davis, Teresa, Brett, with being on the last year and a half now, has helped me out quite a bit with park renovations and grants and things of that. So I wanted to thank you guys all for your support over the years, and we'll continue to be friends over the next few years as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Congratulations.
And I will excuse Ryan if that's okay with everybody.
Yes.
And, he's free to go. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out. You can stay for the rest of the meeting if you want. Thank you, Ryan. Look, every day I take you out to dinner now.
Will do. Thank you, guys. We'll stay in touch.
That was 12. What's that? 12 when you said this. We lost the crowd. We lost the crowd.
First time we've seen that many people in a long time.
Okay,
Who's that
moving on
masked
to agenda item number 6. I'm sorry, let's see. Number 5, new business review request for additional public safety equipment action.
So, hello, Commissioners. Good evening. Again, thank you for taking the time to recognize Ryan and on his departure. We're going to move ahead on to more of our regular business items, and one of the items that you have in front of you is a report that was sent to me from Park Services Officer 3 Martinelli on a new piece of equipment that the Rangers would like to add to their toolbox to get their job done and remain safe. I want to commend Officer Martinelli for his well-prepared documentation of the request. We're going to have a little bit of an interlude before that. Casey is going to show you a video that he and I shared at the National Recreation and Parks Conference in Nashville last month. And then talk a little bit about the recommendation. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, we're up on the computer.
I think I mentioned at the last meeting that Casey and I were headed off to Nashville to do a little session on park rangering, and sessions went very well. We had some good audience participation and made some contacts with some people from California that went all the way to Nashville to find out about us, so it was kind of odd that way. But I'm going to turn it over to Casey and Brian a little bit. Brian, if you want to step to that podium, and then you can use that microphone if the commissioners have any questions. I want to talk a little bit about their request. I think the video speaks about the diversity of what they have to do in the field. So with that, I'll hand it off to Casey.
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't seen me in a little while, Casey Stone, I'm Senior Park Services Officer, and really enjoyed our trip to Nashville to give a presentation about our program. It was nice giving that presentation because we not only got to show them our city and some of the issues that we deal with, but we really got a lot of good feedback from places all over the country. Atlanta, Georgia was a big one that came to us and said, hey, we're interested in doing a program like yours in our city. So it's nice to kind of get that feedback that a lot of them have the same issues as us. Obviously, one of the biggest things that we saw was, while they have police and sheriff's offices, they don't necessarily get quick response times to their calls in the parks, and we shared that that was one of our big issues. So that's why we are rangers, but we also fill that peace officer role. So we sort of had that in common with agencies and park systems from around the country. So this video we thought would be a good way to segue into our request today, sort of a refresher on what we look like in the field, what equipment we carry, and then also what the terrain looks like, because we don't always necessarily have a police response, 30 seconds away. Obviously, when we're in a lot of the urban parts of the city parks, we may, assuming they're not tied up on a call, but we're also out at Los Flores Ranch Park. We're also at the riverbed dealing with some things beneath the 101 bridge. And so very recently, some of our officers came to me and Alex, including Corporal Martinelli, and said, what if we were to get another piece of equipment, which is a 40 millimeter non-lethal device that can be used to deal with somebody that's combative in a non-lethal way. Obviously, you saw from the video, and you can see what's on Brian's belt, we have the taser, and we have OC, and we have a baton, but we don't have something that can necessarily reach somebody from further away. So when those tools are being used, we're in pretty close proximity with people. So Brian had this idea. I'll let him speak to it as far as the specifications and the use, but the idea is it would be one more tool that we're asking for support to get for officer safety purposes, that if we have somebody that's combatant, or combative, I should say, we're not necessarily close to the PD or the sheriff's office. We've got a way to protect ourselves and also deal with this individual. So, Brian, if you want to give a little bit of a history, then I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'm Brian Martinelli. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this proposal. So this idea of a less lethal munition is not a unique one. It's employed by the City of Santa Maria Police Department and all surrounding agencies. Pretty much everybody in the state of California uses this device. The device is essentially a shoulder-fired, I don't want to say rifle, it's not a rifle. It fires only less lethal munitions, meaning that there's no chance that a person is going to die from getting hit by the device. It's essentially the taser, but allows an extension of the taser to punch out exponentially farther. So for instance, our taser is only listed at 25 feet maximum range to be able to hit a subject and gain compliance. But the less lethal launcher can go to 120 plus feet. The idea behind this is to minimize the distance that our officers have to be from the person we're trying to gain control and compliance over, but maximize our own safety. For instance, the tools that we have so far are pepper spray, which has a maximum effective range of 16 feet. So if you're at a maximum range of 16 feet, it still requires us to be relatively close to the subject. And you have to deal with other issues with pepper spray, like cross-contamination. If there's wind or other environmental factors, another officer who's close by could get the pepper spray in their face as well and become incapacitated due to that. Our batons, while they're a great tool, they're only as long as about your arm. So you have to be within very close proximity to the person in order for it to be effective. The taser, as I discussed before, is maximum of 25 feet. So all these tools we have on our belt to gain compliance over another person, we have to be very close to them. So the purpose of this is to expand that range to create more safety gap for us. The less lethal munition, there's not a photo of it on there, but it's essentially a round fired out of a cartridge, and it's made out of hard foam, like a Nerf gun almost, but a little bit heavier. And it's about this thick around. And it fires out of a tube, and it strikes the subject, and the compliance that it's able to provide is pain compliance. So while the taser uses electricity to create neuromuscular incapacitation, which means that essentially your muscles freeze up, and that's why people fall over when they're hit by a taser, the launcher just creates pain, okay? And the pain is of a certain degree that it gains compliance from people very quickly. This launcher that we're proposing is a multi-shot launcher, meaning it's more than one shot. This one is able to fire 6 shots as compared to just 1 from our taser. The benefits of it are we're in a lot of rural areas, namely the riverbed. In the riverbed, there's a large amount of encampments and illegal activity going on inside there. The majority of those people use enclosures or encampments like tents and things like that we don't want to necessarily get so close into an unknown environment like a tent where we don't know what's going on. It would be beneficial for us to be able to stay at a distance and call people out of a tent and keep them at a distance so we can see if they have weapons, what their intentions are towards us, and for them to be able to see as much of a visible deterrent, to see that we have something like that, so they wouldn't want to resist as much knowing that we have something like that at our disposal versus not having it at all. Just our presence alone with these tools and them seeing that we have these tools is enough to gain compliance in and of itself without having to use them. It doesn't just have to be used in the riverbed, it could be used in urban environments as well. Namely, if people have, knives, things like that, where we don't want to get very close, but we still want to deliver some type of compliant force to them. So all around, it's going to benefit us as, keeping the liability to injuring one of us, and also the liability associated with injuring a member of the public. Using something like a baton when you're actually striking somebody with it has actually a higher propensity to cause serious injury than something like getting hit by something made out of foam. So it's all about risk mitigation from both sides, the public side and our officer's side. That's what we're hoping to accomplish with having this device. And it's not going to be utilized all the time. It'll be utilized by the supervisors only, which would be myself, Casey, and then Ruben Ramirez, who's our other corporal. So it stays in a supervisor's vehicle in case it's needed. And then the supervisors will attend training from the sheriff's department, who put on classes on how to appropriately utilize these different devices so we can integrate it into our own policy. When it's time to integrate it into our policy, Santa Maria Police Department, as I mentioned before, already utilizes this device. So we would mirror their policy because they're like our big brother agency. And we would literally take their policies and then kind of fit their policies to kind of mirror closer to what we do at the Parks Department. Does anybody have any questions that I haven't answered? I can answer pretty much anything, but I might not necessarily think about it. So.
That was a good job, Brian, thanks. So Commissioners, Brian's document that he submitted for consideration to me, I went ahead and I did a few little edits and I sent it on to you. And, we've gone the round and round over the years of whether it's appropriate to arm our officers with lethal weapons. And we've been resistant to that. But in place of that, we've always tried to give the officers other tools that they can use that I don't want to say that are important for them to get their job done. We are sending them into situations that are really unknown. I think that Officer Martinelli's comments about, you walk into a tent, you saw in the video, you walk up into a building, you really don't know what is transpiring inside or around the corner or wherever you are. And, a lot of our contacts do go south. I think lately, and I'll let Casey elaborate a little bit more on some of the things that they've been facing, but the level of violence that is out there is significantly higher than it has been in past years. And that's, social commentary on mental health issues and the lack of services for individuals who are out there. And I think Casey put it the best way in our presentation, and that was that we want people to come and use our parks. We want them there, but we want them to follow the rules when they're there, and that the rules apply to everybody, that no one should be exempted from what the rules are. And to allow someone or a group of someone's to commandeer a public space, is a loss to all the other residents of the community. So that's kind of our basis, and it would be my recommendation that today it's really to get you're the public, you're the people that are representing our constituents out there, and we want to make sure that we have some feedback from you on this proposal. Ultimately, it's my decision to make whether or not we move to that level, but again, I think it's important to get your input. Casey, if you have anything else to add?
The only thing I would add is we're fortunate, I would say on average, and Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but the past 3 to 4 years, we probably have 3 to 5 uses of force on an annual basis between all of our officers, which is great. That's a very low number. And so my hope is, even if we can add this piece of equipment, we can maintain that number or lower. I think when we do have those uses of force, it's either somebody that is, highly inebriated, and usually very angry, or somebody that's having a mental health breakdown. Obviously, anytime we have that situation, we want to minimize it as much as possible. But when we have those, it's important that our officers have the right tools to defend themselves if it does go south. And so, this is just one more tool, very strict protocols on use, policy, training. It would be one device. It would be involving a supervisor every time it would be deployed. It would also be well documented, because when these devices are deployed, dispatch is informed, so there's a record of it. And then we also have very strict use of force follow-up procedures, which require us to document everything and ensure that medical care is given when deployed, things of that nature. So we hope for your support. Happy to answer questions, but that's sort of the background on why we think it would be a useful tool for our agency.
Thank you, Casey. So for your action for today is really just discussion. If you guys want to give us any input, and we'll try to answer any questions you might have about it or any concerns.
I'm just thinking out loud. How long has this device been out, and how widely is it being used? I'm thinking, why isn't it being used more readily amongst all law enforcement?
That's probably a good question for Brian. I know it's been out for some time, and it's been sort of improved over the years. I can tell you from listening to our dispatch that it's used quite often when feasible, whether it's a barricaded subject or somebody that may have a knife and they're trying to maintain that distance. But Brian, why don't you feel free to give some input on that? You know better than I do.
So this device has actually been employed since my dad was a police officer in the 1970s. Different variations of the device. Over time, technology has improved and it's become more effective, but while even limiting the probability that somebody's going to be seriously injured. Typically, they're fired out of a regular shotgun, a shotgun designed to fire lethal ammunition. And they, instead of putting pellets inside the shell casing, they put a little teeny bean bag full of lead shot. And that is what the person is getting hit with. They found that the velocity and the size of the munition getting fired was causing people to become injured, like if they were to be really shot. So what they did over the years is they increased the diameter of the round that they're firing and changing it from lead shot into like a Nerf rubberish. And those combinations have allowed them to literally eliminate a lethal scenario with that, but by maximizing compliance from the person you're trying to take into custody. They used to be fired by pumping the action to chamber the next shell. Well, now they're gas powered. So there's gunpowder inside the shell casing, and when it's fired, it uses the gas to rotate the next cylinder so the next shot can be fired. So hence we're able to fire multiple rounds to gain compliance instead of just one, and then chambering it manually. Also, they have equipped them with a red dot sight on top. The one we're looking at purchasing has a red dot sight, meaning when you look through a little scope on the top, it has a red dot inside. So it's increasing your probability of precision shot placement. So before, if it was just regular iron sights, you would hit, and then maybe it wouldn't hit exactly where you wanted it to be. But now that they've introduced red dot sights onto the top, you're able to take much more precise hits, avoiding the areas like the head, the neck, the groin, places where you wouldn't want to hit somebody to gain compliance. So they've become a lot safer over the years, and it's utilized by, like I said, all the surrounding agencies utilize this method, including the Santa Maria Police Department. They carry it in all the supervisor vehicles. Yes.
Thank you.
Questions?
Questions, anyone?
Commissioner Carey? I see that question look.
In a perfect world, a peace officer wouldn't have to be worried about this and that, but it's not a perfect world, and I just think if that's something you guys are requesting, there's a serious reason for it, and we ought to be on board with you.
Thanks.
I support it. I'd rather see our officers safe and, the people that are causing problems as safe as possible as well. So I think it's a good idea.
There's a couple of situations here. You said it goes 120 feet, and is it reloadable? Can you reload it?
Yes.
How long does that take?
So the one we're looking at is called a multi-launcher, meaning it can fire 6 rounds as fast as I can pull the trigger, essentially, if I wanted to do that. When you reload it, it breaks open like a hunting shotgun. It'll break open, exposing the chambers, and then I would physically remove each empty cartridge and put in 6 more, and then close it back up again to reload.
So this is like, escalate like riots, and they use it at riots and stuff like that to keep people. That's 120 feet. I don't know. 120 feet. That's a ways away.
Yeah.
Our regular laser or stun gun, whatever we call it, that just goes 25 feet. That's here to the door.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if our rangers are not armed, right?
Correct.
And so, I hate to see something escalate by stun gun. Oh, you shot them, and then they rush everybody and escalate. So I've been involved with the park rangers for years, and it's always been, try to resolve the matters peacefully and stuff like that. And someone asked me the other day if the park rangers, did they carry sidearms? Were they allowed to arrest you and stuff like that? I said, yeah, they pull you over, they give you tickets, and they call the police officers on that. But mostly the dealings with parks and recreation, and now I don't see the riverbed, so I don't go out there, so I don't know the dangers that are out there. I don't know if our park rangers should be that close to them, because there's a lot of mentally ill people out there, and Brett's having a heck of a time with just our restrooms here, here, so that's mentally ill people, so safety for our park rangers by stunning somebody, or the rest of their crowd are going to come out, and our rangers ain't protected. They don't have a gun or whatever. They have another laser gun. You can reload. But I think that the news and watching the news and everything that's been going on lately in our country, there's a lot of people saying, oh, a police officer shot and tasered him and all this stuff. And how's the city's insurance on that? How does that reflect going to be on the city? We're shooting people 120 feet away. And 120 feet away, are they running? Are they attacking me? Do I have time to leave? Can I get in my truck and protect myself as a ranger?
So you bring up a good point with the 120 feet when he's talking about the 25 feet for some of the other items. And when I went through training with these guys earlier this year, distance is safety. And so the more distance you can create between your subject and the officer, the safer the situation. And so that's a significant improvement in their ability to defend themselves because they have more time to react during a situation that could potentially escalate a little bit further. And so that's, at least from my perspective and what I see with this, it gives them more safety, opportunity for cover and those types of things as well, and is important. And that would be, an important factor to consider from their perspective. So.
Yeah, just a really quick follow-up to what Brett just said. One of the things that we deal with all the time when we train is something called the 21-foot rule. And the 21-foot rule basically stands for the idea that if somebody can get within 21 feet of you wanting to do you harm, and let's say they have a knife, they can typically close that 21 feet and get you with that knife before you have an opportunity to draw your weapon and discharge it. Our problem, in part, is with a taser, even if we have time to get that shot off and hopefully get them, if we miss or if it doesn't connect the right way, that can go bad. So distance is absolutely our friend, and so that was one idea here. 120 would be the maximum range, obviously not ideal. We wouldn't want to be necessarily shooting at somebody with one of these from 120 feet, but if by having this and we can give commands and keep people at that distance to get them to go with the program, if they should decide to charge us and mean us harm, that gives us that little bit of extra distance to react and hopefully stay safe so that they can't close that distance with a knife or another weapon.
I would add that just keep in mind that in law enforcement our goal is to end situations as peacefully as possible without having to use any force at all. But it's not always feasible to do so. Here at the Parks Department, because we are unarmed, we spend a lot of time on de-escalation training, which some of you might have heard the term de-escalation, but it's essentially using your verbal skills to de-escalate what could be a violent situation. So we pride ourselves on training on proper de-escalation techniques, but it's not always feasible to have something like that. Because of our peace officer status, if we can extricate ourselves from the situation for our own safety, we will. But it's not always possible to retreat from a situation because of our peace officer status. We actually we have no obligation to retreat in the penal code, because if we're protecting somebody and then we retreat from that situation, the public that we're trying to protect is left there vulnerable. So there might be times where we literally can't retreat and we have to stand our ground to protect that citizen, in which case we would want something like this to where we can, create our distance and still deliver, our compliance to them.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Commissioner Molina, I think those are good points, and I think that in the department policies that Casey and the staff have developed over time is that, we're not going to actively pursue someone that is not a threat. So if the threat is somehow de-escalated, as Brian says, by just the officer being present, and that threat is de-escalated, then we've accomplished our goal. If it becomes a situation where the individual isn't compliant and isn't willing to back down and, puts the officer in a position where he's at risk or she's at risk, then that's when the tools come out. It's not something that we, approach with, tasers drawn I think if you saw in the video, I don't think there was one situation shown where they're, drawing their taser to enter a building and do an inspection, contact the public. It really is more of that self-defense mechanism. So, and we're all keenly aware of the liability part. I think that's an important component. And, we have liability on both ends. We have liability on the workers' compensation side for the officers should they get injured on the job. And then we have liability on the fact that whatever action they choose to take on a member of the public, there's two liabilities. Number one is their First Amendment rights could be violated, which it becomes a federal issue. Or they could become injured and then, they have some claim to come back to the city for some kind of physical injury. So the officers are keenly aware and avoid those kinds of situations as much as possible. But, as Officer Martinelli says, they're not going to back down either, though. I mean, they have a role, and that's to protect the residents of the city when they're using our parks. And that's kind of where these things cross, where does compliance and enforcement cross. So thank you.
I have one other question. Could something like this, I don't know how often you guys come across a situation where the threat is to another person. Could you use this device in that type of situation?
Yeah, so just like on the street where the police department responds to certain calls, those same crimes, they occur in our parks as well, okay? The drinking, the drugs, the fight calls, domestic violence occurs. When there's like a domestic violence type of situation and one person's trying to hurt the other, and we come into that situation, it may be that supervisor may deem it necessary to utilize that device if they don't want to get as close as a taser or a baton or pepper spray would call for. So it's a good way to end a situation where somebody might be otherwise seriously injured or killed, but now we enter this device in there and we're able to deploy it on somebody and stop the threat to the other person. So yes, to answer your question. Yes, sir.
And it's just that, I've been part of the community, and when the park rangers show up and say there's domestic violence or something going on, people's drinking, drunk, whatever, and our park ranger shows up, they de-escalate the situation first. It doesn't de-escalate, they, just like everybody else, they call the police, and then the regular police show up 5 minutes later, and then they arrest everybody. That's what I've seen with the rangers over the last 15, 20 years since they've been here. That's the policy that you guys done. So yes. I've never seen a park ranger actually tackle nobody and get them down and stuff. And we're talking about the parks. I'm not talking about what happens out there because I haven't been out there. We're talking about parks and recreation here, the basketball courts, the handball courts and stuff.
So our park rangers here, we're very unique in what we do as our role as park rangers here. Because we have peace officer status and we train alongside the police department here, we have all the same powers and authority that the regular police department have, but only while we're on duty here. So when we're presented with these different issues in the parks, we have the authority, when it's safe to do so, to deal with those situations, issue citations, detain people, search people for weapons, take people into custody if necessary. The only difference is we utilize the police department to transport the people that we need to take into custody because we don't have cages in our cars. So we utilize them not only for our backup, but for other things as well, like transporting them to jail, things like that. We're very unique in that way here. There's not a lot of parks departments in the state of California, or in the United States for that matter, who does what we do here in the capacity that we do. So it's something a little bit different. If you would go next door to the county, they have park rangers as well, but they're nothing like our type of park rangers. In other words, they're a completely different set of policies and procedures.
So I congratulate our department's park rangers for setting the benchmark, so to speak. We're really proud of what you're doing, accomplishing. I would suggest to our commissioners to have a motion to give them full support. That's my personal opinion, but I'm hoping the rest of you will agree with me.
I think if you want to take an action, you can. I think that if we get the California nod from everybody, that it's, we've gotten some public input on it, and that would be fine for me.
No.
You got my nod?
Mr. Molina?
Yep.
Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Casey, for
Thank you for your time.
taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we're moving on to old business.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So next month, we're going to be out on the town. We're going to be over at Atkinson Park. We're going to be outreaching to the community through social media, and we're going to be doing some outreach through the faith-based community to try to get the word out about the meeting over at Atkinson. The format I passed out a while back. We'll dust that off and resend it out to you if you don't have it. But one of the things that Brett's actually been talking to me about over the last couple of days, well, let me back up even further than that. So in conversations that I've been having with my boss, the city manager, Stillwell, one of the things that he's brought up is that he would like us to look at our leisure needs assessment and identify areas of the city that could be deficient in park land. So fortunately for us, in our leisure needs assessment in 2019, they did a walkability study. And so they were able to identify basically what parks are within a 10-minute walk of what neighborhoods around them. And they were able to do that, and then they were able to come up with a map showing which areas of town were deficient, where that 10-minute walk didn't exist to the neighborhood park or to a park. So one of the things that we were asked to do was to go ahead and take that information, create kind of a citywide map, and kind of identify where the gaps in services are, so that we could at least start to look at a plan of how we might address that. Some of the things that were suggested was that we look at maybe even purchasing properties that are currently being used for other purposes in order to locate a small park, a pocket park essentially in a neighborhood, so that people will have something within that 10-minute walking range. The other thing that Brett has talked about as a suggestion is maybe to look at the parks that we do have and what amenities they have, and are those amenities the current amenities that that neighborhood wants, needs, and desires. Most of our parks that are any significant size were built back in the 60s and 70s, and so the improvements that they have were improvements from the 60s and 70s. And are those still relevant to what our current needs are? So those are some of the questions we're going to be asking from staff perspective at this meeting, and we're hoping that we just get some good feedback from the community. We'll have that map available of walkability to parks, and we'll have some, I'm not sure exactly what they will look like, but maybe it's an aerial photo of an existing park, and maybe people can tell us, oh yeah, well, it'd be really nice if we had basketball here, or maybe we don't need whatever playground here, maybe we need this instead. That's kind of the dialogue we would like to get going with the community. I think that was a good idea that Brett had to look at our existing facilities. And again, even for the city manager to say, look at this, that's kind of unique, because I've never been asked to do that before. And so whether or not there's support beyond that, we can at least gather up the information and have it available should something come up and we're able to do that. So that's kind of the format. We would like you all there. I'm going to try and keep it informal. My thought was that we would do maybe just a big room and maybe have the commissioners kind of spread out and we'll have a presentation, and then people can talk to us as just as people out there. They want to come to a table where you're sitting and want to chat, we can do that. Where you'll facilitate a little group and have a little discussion or something along those lines. So,
Just a thought maybe on that, we might even be able to break it up if there's particular interest among discussing recreational programs at that park or the parks that may be within that district, or physical amenities that are at the park. We might be able to break up a couple of different groups and get some idea sessions going, things like that. There could be, environmental issues that we can discuss, or trees and things like that. I mean, I think that, we might even be able to break it up between those couple of different interest areas, and, because some people are more wired to think about programming and what we're doing at the park, and some people are more programmed to the physical nature of what's happening in the park and what ought to be there, etc. So just a thought.
so if that sounds like of interest, I think I'm pretty excited to get that going and get trying to get some, so the other part of that was, I am probably going to be asking the media to maybe touch base with you all, and maybe the week prior to that to maybe do some news stories about the meetings coming up. So Sheila will get a hold of you and let you know where we got some really good coverage from KCOY lately. Brett's story the other day on the restroom vandalism. They've been out to the patch a couple of times. We got a good spread on the Santa Maria Times for the patch. We like to keep those media contacts open and try to use them here to get people out. So if they contact you, we'll let you know, or Sheila will contact you and let you know if we can set some interview time.
Alex, I really truly believe that this department is doing an amazing job with what you have in terms of resources, capabilities. The questions that I get asked a lot are relating to, as an example, the multi-field project, and why isn't that advancing further? Something similar to the Abel Maldonado Paul Nelson Pool project. Why isn't another one available further south on the other newer part of the city? The city has grown so much, it's outdated. Those are huge projects, I realize, but what are the answers that we should be giving for those type of questions?
Well, I hope that when we do move south, that the South does come out and talk about, what their needs are. There are plans for, like at Rotary Centennial Park, there's been plans there for a 10,000 square foot gymnasium public community building thing, but, it just hasn't moved ahead. And I think what it really is going to take is for the community to step up. And really one of the reasons for this meetings is so that we can hear what they have to say, and then they can you all can communicate that to the council. When the council does their community outreach, typically they hear the same complaints over and over again. What I would like to do in these sessions is not hear the complaints as much as hear the need. We can do a lot more by communicating a need to the council than we can about communicating why are the lights off at this time, or why isn't the bathrooms clean. Those are things that are operational in nature. But I think the future development of what we're going to need is the projection for Santa Maria is another 25,000 people, in the next 10 years. What the heck are we going to do with those people? We talk about the downtown redevelopment and all the housing they want to bring in. Where are those people going to go? There's nothing downtown for recreation purposes other than Elks Field and Seamus Park. It's just not there. So I think I hope that people come and we talk about that, Commissioner Lee, and that they come and they bring their needs. As far as responses go, I think that's what we're trying to do now. Come up with a plan so that we can have a response to those things. I can easily say, yes, we're working on it. And that's true to some degree, but in reality, it's nothing that's going to change anytime soon. Just because the resources just aren't there. I think I mentioned to you that we do intend to, we're hiring a consultant to look at creating a citywide landscape maintenance district, which could generate some funds for parks maintenance and facilities maintenance. And that may be able to, if something like that passes and the voters are willing to pay this assessment, and maybe those funds that are set aside now, which I think our department budget is somewhere in the $8 million range, maybe some of those monies become capital money and we can actually build things and work on things. But right now, it's pretty much limited. You know, the council's focus, past councils have been, put it downtown. Whatever you're building, put it downtown. We want people downtown. And for those of you that have been on the downtown committee meetings, that's their focus. I mean, they want to revamp what everything looks downtown. Is it right? I don't know. You know, but I do think you're right that the southern end of town really lacks facilities, and I won't say parks, but facilities, you know, that we really just don't have. Yes, sir.
Well, growing up on the south side of town, we had Manami Center. And growing up, we played basketball, we had our gym, we had our courts, we had our handball courts, we had the whole facility that we used, quarter, some of it's what, Jorge was there for years. And Manami Center was, the kids that lived on that side of town never went to the boys club because it was too far.
Yeah.
So what we had was Manami Center, and so the kids were there, weight clubs, Jorge was there. The original guys that were there, worked there forever. Manami Center was the big thing there, and we lost that in a few years. I don't know how we get that back.
Well, it's available. It's actually open for youth programs. Council did authorize specific dollars to open it up for after-school programs. So it is open for that purpose now, again. But a lot of it just comes down to the staffing. But if you live in Bradley Square, as an example, Manami Center is not close. So if there was something at Rotary Park, like a Manami Center at Rotary Park, where you could go to the gym, go to the weight room, or do whatever it is, you know, that would be geographically, that would make sense for you to be there.
Bradley Square, I live there now.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Yeah, we have all the parks there. It's nice, it's a beautiful place. People are going out there walking around.
Right next to
and everything, you know. And we have a basketball court in that section too. So that place is.
But is one good enough? Maybe there should be two. You know, those are kind of the things that Brett's talking about, is what's out there. But next to the fire station, kind of that empty lawn area that's there is where the gymnasium site is supposed to be.
That's where the cheerleader practice.
Yes.
Were we having more than, if I recall, we were having like 3 of these?
4.
4?
There'll be 4. One in each
So
district.
this one would be concentrating on that area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Rather than, you know, what that area needs?
Right. Okay. Thank you.
West side.
Yeah.
Let's see, number 7, are you ready to move on? Yes. So you got the budget update. You received the noteworthy activities in your packet. Again, things are just going on. I'm going to let Brett go ahead and do, he's going to give both reports, the rec division and operations, since Dennis is gone. And I don't really have anything from my side.
So yeah, the Recreation Division, as always, has been busy with some creative programming. It's always nice to see some of the new ideas that they have. I think the rolling at the Rink Town Center skating rink is a really great example of that. That's coming up, and we talk to no end about how to utilize underutilized places within the city, and the parking structures and the top floors of those that are just a nuisance and create issues for us in managing some of the things that happen up there, and how do we turn that into a positive. And so this is a really cool example of that, I think, and so I'm excited to see that. And then the patch is obviously the most notable program of the month, and underway. I mean, it's hopefully going to be a great success this year. I hear the pumpkins are better. Yes. We have a good supply of pumpkins this year. And then Chick-fil-A Leadership Academy kicking off, and then also the pumpkin party at the patch at Los Flores Ranch, so Friday the 29th. I did see, let's see. Let's track here. Yeah, there it is. The Downtown Classic Car Show is coming up in November. So that'll be another kind of a cool use of our facility there. That just, in the past has been underutilized. So I like to see those rec programs like that we're sort of making use of things that are underutilized. So.
Wait, what's bubble soccer?
It's the big ball.
Yeah, that's the, aren't those the COVID balls? They look like a COVID thing, but they're...
Oh, clear?
Yeah, you run into people.
You can run into
Yeah,
each other and be safe.
Well, we should do that, you guys.
team building,
Yeah.
maybe the next retreat.
Speaking of team building, it would be nice to have a road course in town, challenge
Yeah.
course.
Yes, sir.
On the car show here, we got a live band. We got over, I think right now we should have over 50 to 100 cars.
Wow.
They're pushing it pretty good. I was at the meeting, yesterday's, but last week. So the car show, and then we're outreaching to different organizations to put their clubs out there. And
Like booths?
yes, so if you have any groups that want to go out there and, reach out to the community, we have special booths for you guys, and they're free. So if you Hancock or anybody wants to send out there. But we're working really hard on that car show, and the girls are, and I think it's going to be a big success. We got a live band and everything.
Thank you. All right, on to operational updates, capital projects. I'll start off with some capital projects updates. So we continue to move forward with Chapel Plaza. We keep running into little small delays, but we should be out the bid. Last email I saw was either later this week or early next week. So we are really close to moving forward with that project, which is really exciting. Hopefully everything comes in the budget that we need and we can move forward with that project finally. So we did, I think I mentioned before, we're completely done as far as the easement is concerned that was required to get that project rolling. So it's been a lot of work in the back end to move it forward. So glad to see it finally doing that. The Presbyter Trailhead, this is the one we received a $25,000 grant from the Santa Barbara Foundation. And we are moving that project forward. Hopefully we don't have to go through all the permitting and everything. It should be a pretty straightforward project for us. And so our hope is to finalize any minimal design that we need to do and move forward with that. There'll be some informal bidding since the project's so small. We won't have to go through the formal bid process and document preparation. And so our hope is that we can, move this thing forward first part of spring. We have a year to complete that project. So one way or another, we'll get it done, even if Scott has to do it. Okay, that's Scott. Veterans Memorial. We continue to move forward with Veterans Memorial. We've submitted plans and are in plan check. And I think last I saw there was just David waiting on plan check from David and Scott. So we hopefully just a week or two away, hopefully for plan check on that. And then if there's any corrections, we can get those turned around and back in and then permit before Thanksgiving is my hope. Smith Eno's house, we will have our windows this month, and the windows are the critical piece before we can do anything else on the exterior of the facility. We can't do anything until we have those windows because that's the basis for all our millwork and everything. So once the windows are in, then we can work our way up to the roof and then get the roof done. So we have all of the millwork material. So all the lumber and everything that we need to do the millwork is there on site, and so no COVID delays from that. But once we get these windows, we'll be in good shape. It's just taking longer than we want. The planning side of that, I went in to try to submit some plans today, had a little bit of a hiccup where I need a little bit more information, so that'll get hopefully resolved tomorrow, and I'll be able to resubmit on Thursday before the building closes on Friday, and then we'll have, we may end up having another round of comments, but we're closing in on having that project pretty well buttoned up as well from the interior TI perspective and the immediate landscaping around the building, around the Enos house. And so hopefully, come springtime, we'll be able to be under construction on that portion. So it just depends on how quickly we can move through the permitting process. But moving forward, nonetheless, we will continue to move forward. The Presbyter Park irrigation or trail and irrigation project continues to move forward through design, and we should be in a position to submit that before Thanksgiving. We'll require environmental health review with the county on that. And other than that, it's a pretty straightforward project, so I'm hoping to be done before July 1st of next year. And so we're going to be very busy this spring. We are going to have multiple projects under construction and rocking, so it's pretty exciting. Presker Pond, it's still to be determined on that. We're still waiting on some direction for funding so that we know how we can move forward with that project. We just don't have enough detail on it yet. It's really just a placeholder to let you know that we're still doing it. And then we're still on track for the playground tiling install over at Rodenberger for the 28th of October, and we hope to be open by the second week of November and have a new playground out there. So that's it for capital projects, unless anybody has any questions. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Lee. That will conclude our staff info.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to number 8, commissioner reports. Do you have any commissioners?
I do. I went to the CPRC conference in Solvang, and I really enjoyed it. I got to interact a lot with, other departments, and but the main focus of the conference was JEDI, which is Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion, and it was focused more like for the department and how to include and treat everyone fairly. And so I found it very interesting. I didn't go on the grant part of it. They had two
Tracks.
yes, two tracks that you could do, the JEDI side or the grant side. And but it was very nice, and I got to meet some of the employees that I hadn't really had a lot of contact with. And there's Stephanie and Teresa were there, and so we were talking about the youth, and they've got a lot of ideas for good projects for the kids to do, but they were interested in geocaching and what that was and all that. And it just so happens that Jim is having a class this Saturday at Las Flores, so I told them if they would like to attend, go on the website and sign up. But it was very enjoyable. It was a good group.
That's good.
Yep.
Oh, I have some. Official business. Oh, on September 18th, I did the Serve Santa Maria. It was supposed to be the whole Mayor's Youth Task Force, but it was just me.
What?
I know, huh? It was planting, 56 oak trees. And they're like, apparently there's some smaller kind of oak, because they seemed like they were going to be so close together, but they explained, no, these are littler oaks than normal oaks. So you guys are probably know what those were. But there were a lot of them, and they got in, a lot of kids there to help. Not Mayor's Youth Task Force, but it was good. It was a great event. Let's see, what else do we have? The the police community meeting at the Menominee Center. I don't know if you all saw it, but it was pretty interesting to do input. It was a great facilitator. And then, September 29th, we were just talking about the downtown committee. There was a Zoom meeting. It was really long. It was a few hours. And it was all about crosswalks. Were you on that too? Janice was on it. It was about the crosswalks, 2 crosswalks downtown. The Broadway, the one from City Hall across the street, the 4, would be the whole 4 area. And then the Main and, same thing at Main and Broadway. And it was presentation about using the tile or it was just, or to use the paint, or there's this other stuff. It was interesting. It kind of sounded like they might have already known where they wanted to go, and, which was kind of deflating, but, I think that it's gonna work out. We haven't decided yet. But, that was that. Downtown committee is always really fascinating because you just hear these little tidbits about things. They might just talk about, in passing, and you're going, oh, they're going to do this, because there's a lot going on, but it's all in the air. Let's see what else. I want to thank you for, Scott, about the bee situation. There was a bee situation last week. I took my dog out, and there'd been a hive. It was a huge hive in, what was that called? But
It's an irrigation valve.
Okay, a little cement box in there with and there'd been bees there for months and months and months. And I have to walk my dog a lot. And so I had taken her out about 10:30 the Monday before, and there was a little car parked across the street from my house. And we live on where there's nothing across the street but trees and the riverbed levee. And homeless people, apparently. But a lady walked to her car from the trees, and she had this little container, and I thought it was just odd. And I got the dog to do what she needed to do and went back in. And the next day, as I walked by there, I saw that the big honeycomb was out, like huge honeycomb. So she had taken the honey, obviously. But had that not occurred, no one would have known that the beehive was there. Yeah, which was sad. But when I walked by the next morning, the guy or 2 mornings later, he was spraying. And I said, are you spraying poison? And he goes, yes. And I asked him again because I thought, no, who would do that, And then I thought afterwards, I got nervous and I called. I emailed Brett immediately, and he and Scott responded really quickly and, made the calls. But then I thought maybe he didn't understand me, just because he nodded and was smiling and, So, but anyway, it was taken care of. Thank you. What was the other thing? There was something, other community interest. The charity auction, the Friends of the Library charity auction starts this weekend at the Town Center Mall. So if anyone's interested, I haven't seen the chairs yet. I just do the design for it. Every year I'm the designer, like to put everything together. But there's always great chairs, and it helps fund services for the library, mostly for kids. And the Buena Vista Park, did we talk about the little book thing we're getting at Buena Vista Park? I don't think that came up. Yeah, just one, a little library, mini library.
Yeah, I heard about it somewhere.
Yeah.
I heard about that.
At Buena Vista Park.
Yeah.
In the next few weeks. There's the funding, and it's kind of cool. We got a grant from the Altruza, right? One of the Altruzas. So, anyway, that's it.
Yeah, the Buena Vista Fire.
Yeah, pretty cool. So.
Also continue to help us with the trash pickup at the park. So Cynthia's been telling us when they're going to do it, so that we're able to let our staff know. So.
I know we need beautifiers at every single park. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Just a flash in my mind, I was over at the Costco Center, the old Costco Center, the other day, and there's a lot of homeless people congregating there, a lot of old RVs in the back. And I was thinking, what a waste of that beautiful facility. So I don't know if there's any money available or, anyway, it would be a beautiful facility to be able to utilize.
So yeah, there's been in and out conversations with different developers as to what they wanted to do there. It seems that the biggest offers are coming from places that want to turn it into inside storage. So basically they would create all these little storage modules inside of it. And the city's been really resistant to that because of its location and the retail value.
Yeah, that's horrible.
So those projects have been kind of turned away. But I think the property owner is getting to a point where, you know, they need to do something. And they've been contacted about the homeless issue and they really just haven't done anything. The other merchants that are there, Trader Joe's and Bevmo and Michael's, have expressed concerns about the issues going on at the other end. So they're aware of it, and it's just a matter of how to manage it. And I think that continues to be the problem citywide, is how to manage it.
So my oldest son is a hockey player, he's a goalie, and his theory is that it should be an ice rink.
Sure.
Because the closest one's Goleta.
An ice rink, or they have those indoor soccer courts within a big building where you can have multiple games going on. I mean, there's a lot of ways if someone has the money to back it, finance it.
That's the thing, money.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to give us the money, we'd be happy to do something with it.
I'm just glad to see, like, the other commissioners, you know, their trees and do all this stuff, and it's cool, you know, because it's not all about just sports facilities, parks and recreation, you know, it's about a whole bunch of different things, and I listen to all of them, and I don't get a chance to go do all that stuff, Zoom meetings and stuff, we're too busy out there, but it's exciting to see you guys do that stuff. Thank you.
That's a very good point, because when we're traveling and you visit other cities, there's always great ideas. As an example, every time I go to Paso Robles, I look at that community art gallery where they have artists and crafters, painters, they have their own workspace, and they're also able to sell their retail items. When I go up to Rockland, California, there's a beautiful aquatic center, and the large multiple artificial turfs. So up in Davis, you look at the bike paths, you go, wow, I wish we could have this.
In the farmer's market.
Brett wants that farmer's market.
I hope Santa Maria will be constantly improving, which we are, and I'm very proud of the city. We will improve.
Yeah,
Takes time.
Yeah, with money.
and money, lots of money,
But
unfortunately.
it's growing. Anything else, Alex? Well, I thank everyone, and as a reminder, our next meeting will be at the Atkinson Center on November 9th.
In the evening.
Oh yeah, 5:30. It says 5:30?
Atkinson Park?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
And Atkinson Park was the one I grew up going to.
That's about I played softball over there. Huh? Football when I was in youth, 8th grade.